Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 189.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Guess who? You know who I am, Mary Catherine Johnson, but I get to introduce you to someone that I just love the name of his company. It's just the coolest name I've almost ever heard. So, all right, here we go. We have today Russ Perry, who's the founder of Design Pickle and the upcoming author of The Sober Entrepreneur. So, I mean, how cool is that? Two pretty cool names. Hey there, Russ. How you doing?
Hey, very awesome to be here. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you for showing up and being excited and chatting about one of my favorite subjects. You know, we've been talking. Yeah, we've been talking about parenting and entrepreneurship now since 2013, like 180 episodes. The first 100 episodes, we were really talking more about the similarities between parenting and entrepreneurship. You know, startup is just like a newborn baby, right? And exit strategy is in parenting is just like an exit strategy in business, and everything in between. But, you know, we're talking a lot more now about business. So I can't wait to chat with you, especially about your book and also about that amazing company, Design Pickle.
Awesome.
I mean, come
awesome.
on. So we always start in the same place. Tell me your once upon a time story. How did you get into this whole parenting and entrepreneur thing? Which came first, the kids or the business?
So the answer to that is the kids. And actually, I know this is going to be audio, but I'll show you my camera right now. I switched. My daughter is over
She's
there.
hanging out in the corner.
Yeah. So that's my 12-year-old Maddox. And I was a senior in college at Arizona State University, and I was working for Apple, actually. I was working for them here in Arizona and found out I was going to be a dad. It was a really unexpected, amazing surprise, but something that put me down a much different path that I anticipated. And during the first year or two of her life, I was really juggling this employee-parent relationship, which I wasn't expecting to be a dad that young, but also, you know, here I was right out of college trying to figure out so many things, life, all this kind of stuff. And I just got super annoyed with requesting time off to go spend time with my daughter. Like, it was this asinine concept to me. And I was young. I didn't know what was going on. So I was like, how do I just control my own time so I could spend time with her, hang out with her, take her to the doctor, all this kind of stuff. And I ended up discovering quote unquote entrepreneurship, and which started for me as like freelance graphic design. That's how it got started. That turned into a more robust company, and I did that for about 8.5 years. And it wasn't until 2015 when I had closed my agency that I then launched into what we are currently doing, which is the graphic design company Design Pickle. So stubbornness might have been my once upon a time story, or just not being smart enough to stick it out and to work hard at Apple because the stock price was a lot lower than it is now. But that's where it started.
That's amazing. That's so cool. It's kind of the almost the entitled attitude a little bit.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, with the, what do we have to do this for? Why? What is this about? Why not just go do my own thing? Oh my gosh. If all of us had the ability to just put that fear aside and do that, the world would be a very different place.
Well, and I worked in the retail side of Apple. I've worked on both on the corporate and the retail. And if you don't know, the retail side is very much retail. You could literally go from Target to Apple and get plugged right in. So I am this innovative thinker and wanting to come up. And I remember one time I created this scheduling like matrix spreadsheet, and that like helped everybody schedule because scheduling was so terrible. And I like delivered it, and it was like, you do not think this way out here. We do not think differently at Apple Retail. We do things a certain way. So that was one of the dominoes that led me to leave. But it was a great experience. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, pretty big aha moment, right? Like, I think I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So wow. So okay, but Apple, what an amazing. I've got to tell you, I'm a total Apple geek.
Hmm.
I mean, I found it a total betrayal when my sons switched over to Androids and chose to go get PCs. I'm like, dude, what the heck? Why would you do such a
It's
thing?
rebellion. They're just
Oh my
rebelling. They'll
gosh,
come
it
back.
must be. Yeah, it must be. Well, yeah. One of them is actually teaching himself animation. So he's using the whole Adobe Cloud and, doing all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But he's still doing it on a PC, for criminy sakes. Whatever. The other one just got himself an alien laptop, Dell alien thing that lights up everywhere. And, yeah. Anyway. And they look at me like, Mom, you're just not with it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, and I think that it's funny because I've been that way my whole life. And you get such these brand allegiances and alliances.
Yes,
And
yes.
that was one thing I learned from Apple was like the power of branding. To me, that is actually why I think we were even in a modicum of successful during my agency years because I had zero experience, but I had learned a lot about branding from Apple because I was there during the launch of the iPod and the iPhone. I was on the
Wow.
teams that helped promote those. So you can't get in. I was like a master class in branding
Yeah.
and storytelling, but to this day, it's still in my blood and my DNA. However, full disclaimer, I did build a PC last year, which almost resulted in me throwing it out the window because it was more of like a challenge, and it just reinforced my passion for
Exactly.
for
I
Apple.
have to stop on that for a second because okay, so my 18-year-old who's going to be 19 in just a couple of weeks, he specifically he had an old laptop and old PC laptop, and he needed a new laptop or a new desktop, and he was going to go, and him and his friends were going to go build this whole big desktop and get all that. And he was so hot on that, and my husband was like, wait a minute, why would you do that? Why don't you just go to Dell or go to Best Buy or go to HP and just buy this, and so he had a whole conversation, but he ended up getting this alien laptop once he looked at the fact
Wait,
that
so you're not buying them for them?
no,
So come on, Mom. If you really want them to have a Mac, then get them, buy it for them. That's
nope,
you
and
don't care that much.
no, because I want them. He's almost 19. Right?
Yeah,
He needs
yeah.
to start taking some responsibility and figuring things out for himself. So, yeah, if it was my choice, yeah, I'd be buying him but then I just went and bought my own MacBook. So,
There you
I'd
go.
rather me have the MacBook. No, I'm kidding. But it was just so funny, that whole PC thing and building it and all that stuff. And I did that. And that's when I finally switched to Apple, was when I had a PC built, did it all, and it got a Trojan virus. Got it cleaned out, then it got another Trojan virus. And it was the worst. So yeah, it was the worst. That Trojan virus just destroyed that, and and it happened twice after I rebuilt it again, and I just said, "That's it, I'm done." And I went and bought my first Apple, and that was like 2006. So
Well, welcome.
yeah, thank you. So we'll get off our Apple soapbox here and get back to the topic at hand. But okay, so you got to tell me a couple of things about branding now. So what were the top three? I mean, and you got to tell me about Design Pickle. I mean, that name,
Yeah.
I love that name. Tell me what branding did you bring from Apple that allowed you to make Design Pickle successful? And then obviously, I want to hear about the book as well. But
Yeah.
let's start with branding. What did you know?
Well, I think it's a continual thread arc from like the last 10 years of me being in business. So after Apple, I launched my agency, quote unquote. I mean, that's a very like big guy, big boy term. It was me, and then it was me and another guy, and then we finally got a few other people. And what we did is we took a lot of this consumer branding, so creating emotion, creating memorable experiences, using copy and video in a way that was not just about features and benefits. And we went into the tech space and into kind of the B2B market. And we did a really great job because most of the people in that space were communicating about how much money things cost or the features, the bells, the whistles. And when you came barreling down with an emotionally driven story, which is what Apple does, and what I learned, it was massively receptive. And so the problem was during all this time, we'd create these really amazing brands. but they were really designed for companies and industries that just weren't ready for them. And we would come up with the craziest cool ideas and we'd sell them, and the marketing director or whoever we were working with would be like, yeah, this is awesome. And then by the time it got approved, it would be watered down by so many layers of bureaucracy and red tape and board of directors. And it was disheartening. And it was one of the reasons why I left the agency world, was because I literally felt like I was like selling myself on the streets, trying to get people to buy me and my ideas. And sometimes they would, or they were always judging, or no, that sucks. And there was just like, I didn't feel like I was creating much value out there. And the other part about it is my company name was a terrible brand. It was, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to laugh. But at the end, I actually kind of merged with another company the last couple of years, and their company name was N as in Nancy, NSB / Keen, KEANE, NSB Keen. So you hear that, you're like, what? What did you say? MSB Keen. So I vowed that anything I did next, I would have a brand that was unforgettable. And so I was thinking about Design Pickle, December 2014. I had a couple consulting clients. And so what we do at Design Pickle, it's a productized graphic design service. So it's flat rate, $370 a month, and you get to meet a dedicated designer that's one of my teammates, and you work with them dedicated. So they share about 10 other clients, so you don't get their whole day, but they work on your stuff every day. And if you're a small business, online business, whatever, it doesn't matter, even a big business, you can get a lot of value out of that. So that was founded because I was consulting and I had all these small design jobs that I needed help with that I didn't want to necessarily do myself. So I created this little system, and I was at my dinner table. I had my kids around me, and I was like, what should this thing be called? And I went to GoDaddy and I looked up design this. And then I was like, Design Pickle, search, designpickle.com's available. All right, that's it.
Let's
done.
do it.
It's done. Phonetically, it's easy to say. Everyone gets it. Most people like pickles. And I drew the logo by hand on a napkin. I did 2 versions, showed it to my kids, and they're like, yeah, it's a pickle. And that was that. So I went from like $500,000 branding projects that would take 3 months to execute to literally branding my company in 15 minutes with a 10 and a 9 and a 2.5 or 3-year-old and a napkin sketch. Like that was how it went down. But it worked.
Gosh.
And we still lead with emotion, and we still try to be personable and real. And again, that's going all the way back to what I learned at Apple.
And fun. I mean, that you can't think of anything but fun when you hear that name.
Totally.
Yeah.
And see, design is a very subjective experience.
Right.
And your audience, well, I selfishly hope 100% of everyone who hears this goes and signs up. I realize they won't. And for those people that do, it may not be a good fit because everyone's experience in communicating what they want and their ideas is going to be very different. So we get that, and we don't pretend to be perfect, and we're not going to be perfect, but we want to be friendly and we want to be fun. Because look, when you're stressed out about a brochure that you need to get done and your designer's having a hard time understanding you, we want you to be surrounded with support and positivity, and not an attitude or like you're somehow doing something wrong, which unfortunately, if there's a lot of designers out there, and I was guilty of this as well when I had my agency, that they're judgmental, they kind of look down on you, they're frustrating to deal with. And so we want to remove that and just have this like great experience so that when things do get tough, we get through it together and we move on and we keep rolling.
Absolutely. Wow. What an amazing thing. And so when you say this is basically productized design, what types of designs do you do? And obviously the word design is there, but that design could be like logos and web pages and brochures and business cards. And, you can do all kinds of graphic design stuff. So what do you do?
The way we describe it in the scope of work is the first rule of thumb is, can you pretty much quickly communicate it or clearly communicate it in an email? If things become too complicated, you need to have a meeting, a brainstorm, a focus group, whatever, a video chat, then that's a big red flag. Projects that tend to get too complicated and we stay away from are going to be like original branding. Like we're not going to come up with like the logo and the colors and the vibe of your company because that's a very intimate process. And I'd recommend hiring someone who's an expert in that. Similar with like web and digital design. We're not going to design your site for you or your mobile app, but we can do all of the other stuff when it comes to the content you need. So that could be graphics for your website. That could be marketing materials, promotional graphics, podcast episode covers, social graphics, trade show banners, whatever. The sky's the limit at that point. This morning, we're doing a merch store we're launching, and I had some biker bandanas designed with the Design Pickle logo guy. And so I found something online and I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Can you design this? And it came back. Turnaround's usually a business day, although sometimes it can take longer if you have complex or a lot of volume. And but some people can't design a brochure because they're really bad at email. Some people can. So it really is an individual, like what you can design kind of ultimately depends on your communication skills.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all in communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to really transfer your idea of what you need through communication to someone else. And that's, I think, the whole key, just like you were talking about with Apple. I mean, I remember the whole brand of the dark background with just the shadow person and the color of the headphones or the color of the iPod. I mean, that's totally stood out of just a snapshot of someone dancing, and it's a shadow figure. And the color draws your eye to the product that is creating that feeling. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Now let's tie this back to parenting because I know that's kind of what
where
a lot
we were
of us
headed.
struggle
Yes.
with. So what's so funny, and I kid you not, our head of customer success, he before Design Pickle was an AP high school history teacher because I said to him, his name's Alex. He's awesome. I said, Alex, if you can communicate with parents and kids, you can communicate with our clients because it's literally communication is how it is. And whenever a design comes back incorrectly, and I get frustrated at my designer because even though I own the company, it still doesn't work for me perfectly every time. I look back at the way I communicated and I wasn't being clear enough. And it's no different than when I ask my kids to do something and they totally mess it up. And I'm like, what the heck? What are you guys doing? Like, you guys are insane. And then I think about what I asked them and I'm like, I wasn't even paying attention to what I was saying. Yeah. Like I was using zero details. Like they're just doing the best they can. And here I am being frustrated at them where I was the one who wasn't communicating clearly. Oh and so those skill sets. So I would say if you're really great at communicating with your kids, you'll probably have a good experience with a graphic designer.
Definitely. And anyone else in the world for that matter.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly.
I know. And as they get older, it's even more specific. I do a lot. My oldest son works for me, and I create a lot of screen flows. Okay, so a lot of screen share tutorials on what I want him to do. That's how, because he has a busy schedule. He's in college and blah blah blah, and so a lot of when our schedules don't match. So a lot of when I communicate when I want something done is through that screen share, and even then. He'll come back to me and I'll say, well, wait a minute, you didn't do this part. And he's like, well, you didn't even say that in this part in your screen share. Or you didn't say I was supposed to do it that way. I'm like, oh, crap. Yeah, that's my bad. That's my fault. That's just the way it is, especially if I'm doing the screen shares, like I mentioned to you before we started recording at 10:30 at night. That's probably not the best time.
You're functioning a little low.
Yeah, very low. So, I'm not as young as I used to be, even though my first company, I would stay up till 2 a.m. doing stuff and, get it done. And that's the only time I had to do it because I had little kids at the time. So bring the kids into this now. So you started this whole thing with this wonderful kind of naive idea that I want to make my own schedule and do my own thing so I can be with my daughter. How did that turn out? How starting a business, how did that turn out?
It's turned out amazing, and it's a core value that I still have to this day. So now I actually have 3 daughters. I have Maddox, who's here with me today, and then I have Reese, who's 5, and Paige, who's going to be 2 in October. Wow. So we have three kids, and While I do have like a home, like an office away out of the house, which was something I learned early on, that's kind of required for me at least. I know some people can have a home office. I still have this value of flexibility and time with family. And one of the core foundations that Design Pickle was built on, because I'll be completely honest, the agency world like almost imploded me. Like it was incredibly stressful. When we get to the topic of the book, I'll elaborate more on that. But
Mm-hmm.
I was never home, and I was never in a position to where I could connect and see my family. And so now what we've done is we've created Design Pickle to be a completely online, work anywhere type company. So we could literally be anywhere in the world and do any job and work from anywhere. And you don't have to be in one place. That's unlocked a lot of amazing experiences for me and my family. The biggest one we just got back from this summer is we went 6 weeks in Belize. So we were down there for 6 weeks. And it was awesome. It was different. It was stressful. I was working from home, so that was really different for me. But I would have never been able to do that without continuing that core value of making sure I control my own time. And while I didn't do a great job of it earlier on in my career, even though that's why I started to become an entrepreneur, I kind of got away from that. I've come back full circle over the last 3 years and really put it back on the forefront. And it's been really awesome and amazing for our family.
And that's the reason I asked that question, because I had a feeling most of us, when we start this whole the journey and we think, yes, we'll have freedom and we'll have this and we'll have no boss and blah blah blah, what we actually are hit in the face with is the opposite, which is reality, which means now we have to be the ones to determine that. And very few of us have the ability in the beginning. I don't know anyone actually who has the ability in the beginning to be disciplined enough to do what you have to do in a startup mode of a business and at the same time be with your family.
Yeah.
Those two things just don't mix in the beginning, especially when we first start this whole journey. So I get it, that in the beginning, even though you wanted more time, you actually got the opposite, which was less time, it sounds like.
Well, but I was able to do that with Design Pickle because I
Right.
had that experience. And I think that's sort of the icing on the cake. And I think for any listeners out there who are like, it'd be impossible for my business to change and to have all this time. I've worked myself into a prison, or, whatever they might be feeling. I was in that prison for 8.5 years, and I literally had to burn it all to the ground. I didn't even sell my business. We closed the business, the agencies. Like it was literally like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm destroying my life. I'm destroying my marriage. It was terrible for every family metric. But because of that experience, from the day one of Design Pickle, I knew exactly what I wanted to build. Even before the concept came into my mind, I was consulting, and with that consulting, I was like, really protecting my time, really designing engagements and relationships to be of the right expectations so that I would protect the family, because basically I did such a terrible job at it before.
Beforehand. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's it. We don't usually, I agree 100%. We start off that way and we get the idea that, oh, I can do this, but really it takes control of us rather than us controlling it. And then through learning that, through seeing the effects that it has, I have stories myself as well, where all kinds of different times when I sacrificed my family and shouldn't have. And so we can't really know what we want until sometimes we find out what we don't want. And that shows us really what we want and how valuable it is to us. So, I just, like I said, I love Design Pickle. I've already visited your site. I've seen some amazing things that you do and all the designers that you have there. It sounds like an amazing niche that people need. So Power Parents, definitely, designpickle.com. You got to check it out. But I have a feeling we're moving toward the book.
Yes.
So from that concept that we just talked about, take me into now this book. So for 8 years, you kind of, tried to navigate these treacherous waters of entrepreneurship, and doesn't sound like did the job that you wanted to.
No, and during that time I was drinking a lot, so that was not a very added on to the stress of entrepreneurship when you're struggling with substance
Mhm.
and the stress around that. It's even a compound effect. So my book, Sober Entrepreneur, is really I've been sober for 3.5 years, really right before in 2013 and is when I quit drinking, and it unlocked a whole new world for me. And I honestly attribute I've done more in 2.5 years with Design Pickle than I've done in 8 years with the agency. Yes, it's a better business model, but I'm a better person and I'm a
Right.
clearer person. And so Sober Entrepreneur is really a book coming out next August. And it's a book about my personal journey with addiction and struggling with that, the stresses around being a male entrepreneur. It's not just for males, anyone can read it, but it's about my story. And then that macro topic around addiction and entrepreneurship, whether it is to a substance or an area we explore in the book is around being addicted to your business, which
Right.
I was both when I had the agency. I was drinking and I was addicted to this idea of running this agency, which was literally crushing me. And
Right.
I couldn't see how both were killing me and ruining me and deteriorating who I was until things got so bad and so terrible that I just finally hit rock bottom and knew that I had to change.
That's an amazing concept. And first off, congratulations for
Thank you.
the rebirth, if you will.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, and it's an amazing concept to think about the addiction to business as well, because I can see if I could easily see myself in having those tendencies, and I can't put my finger on exactly what would stop me from going so far that it would impact my life greatly,
Hmm.
except to say my husband.
Hmm.
And my
Yeah.
kids, that it would be, I would see myself sitting at my computer for too many hours and see the results of that when my kids would come up and ask me to do something, and I'd say later, or in a minute, or in a minute,
Mhm.
or in a minute, 50 times, and then realize that within, say, a couple of days or something. But I can see the tendencies so much, especially for those of us who are so driven towards success and driven away from the fear of failure.
Mhm. Well, and one topic I unpack in this book is to start a business, you kind of have to be insane anyway. Like you
Yes.
really have to like think
And
differently
so
and
what does
take.
that say about us parents? We're
Yeah, well,
really in trouble.
exactly. Exactly. And so you just ultimately like have this tendency to push forward through adversity and to think positively and to ignore reality, really. Like
Yeah.
to be an entrepreneur parent, you really have to decide to go down a path that most people will be like, that is insane. I'm never going to do that. But what happens is in our ability to manipulate reality, which we have to at times when they're tough and we're struggling and we're hustling, that can have the adverse effects when we fall into destructive habits
Right.
because we convince ourselves sort of this well the promised land is just over that one more all-nighter. It's
Yes.
just, if I just can get here, if I can just do that, or I'm just, I'm going to just have this one drink because I've been working so hard and I need a break. And we convince ourselves that these behaviors are okay. And in hindsight, I was the most convinced guy ever that I was what I was doing was just fine until today. I look back in hindsight and I'm like, I was an idiot and I was insane, and I and was able to reconfigure my priorities and habits, and really say, okay, what do I want personally first? What do I want with my family first? And then, okay, what is the type of experience in business and value I can provide that's going to keep those musts intact, and I don't have to compromise those even in the early days. Yeah, I might have to
Yeah.
work hard here or there, but I'm not going to miss my kids' stuff. I'm going to be able to spend time with them, go on trips, be present for them. And
Yeah.
it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of new habits, a lot of new mindsets. I invested an insane amount in coaches and training, and just really had to like rewire my brain to kind of come out. And that's a lot of what I've done. I talk about in the book.
So let me ask you this. Do you think you could have come to where you are without hitting rock bottom?
absolutely not, because I would have never been aware that I even had a big of a problem that I did, because I had convinced myself that where I was at was just good enough. And I was just going to go on that path.
Yeah, and that you could handle it. That this is just the way it is, and you're just going to have to do this, and you're just going to buckle down and figure it out, and all those things that we tell ourselves, especially when we are kind of DIY entrepreneurs, right? So where we have to do it all, we have to know it all, we have to do it all. We put that pressure on ourselves. So what if there's someone out there listening that actually is in that place? They haven't hit rock bottom yet, but they are addicted to their business or a substance and trying to just make it work. What could you say to them to either? I mean, I don't think you can make it easier. I really don't. Everyone has to have their own experiences to get to where they need to be. But what would you say to that person?
Oh, and I say this in complete seriousness. I'm not trying to make a joke for self-promotion, but you need to go get my book, because this is what we're going to, russperry.co is where I'm going to be marketing the book. What I run through in the book is to prevent people from having to hit rock bottom. And so my immediate tip, though, like right now, if there's someone, I mean, the book's not coming out till August, so I don't want them to hit rock bottom between now and then. The first thing I would do is get a coach, not a therapist, not a psychologist, a coach. Find someone who's further down the path that you want to go on, someone who respects, who has real experience, and go talk to them, because the first way to prevent rock bottom is to get new perspective. And I have never found a better, more positive path for new perspective than to investing in coaching. And the difference I found, because a lot of people get confused with coaching, a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist really focuses on the past, and some of them introduce medicines and things to help manage things. A coach focuses on where you're at now and where you want to go in the future. And that to me is you'll change far more if you set your sights differently looking ahead than focus on what's behind you.
And so, and I agree 100%. So thank you for that. And then the only thing I would add to that is, because addiction carries with it a lot of lying to yourself and not being truthful with what is actually reality. Because of our ability to be insane and just deal with things. So how would you suggest to handle that? So if you get a coach, if you're not honest with that coach, the coach is not going to understand where you are and where you need to go, especially if you're addicted, right, in some way. So that coach is going to, if you get a coach, it might be a little even more scary than being addicted and in your business, because the coach is going to see very clearly, if you're honest, that you are addicted and that you do need to make major changes. And that's probably the scariest part of all, because you haven't been honest with yourself. So you definitely don't want to be honest with the coach and have them have to tell you where you are. So what about that? How do you deal with that?
It's tough. And no one will ever escape from addiction or depths without being truthful. And that's sort of the foundational premise of it. And honestly, you can't escape it unless you're ready to be truthful. What I found though with coaching is a really good coach is gonna call you out. They're gonna call your BS out. Oh yeah. And often you'll go in thinking, okay, Russ says I need a coach. I'm gonna go need a coach. Yeah. Hey coach, I got this. I need to make more money. My kids aren't listening to me. And by the time you leave that session, you'll be like, holy
crap. Yeah.
I thought so my very first coach that I really formally hired, I had hired a couple people here and there. Her name's Dina Patton. She's an amazing woman here in Arizona where I live. First of all, she sold me because she said, yeah, Russ, I do coaching. I saw her speak and I talked to her afterwards. And I was like, do you do coaching? Because it was right after I closed my agencies and I was kind of floating around. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I was like, I just need some help figuring this out. And she's like, I do coaching, Russ, but really I only coach women. But sometimes I coach really smart men. And I was like,
I love it.
Oh, that's a great sales pitch. And I hired her and I thought for sure I could have swore to you all we were going to talk about was going to be business because that's what I needed help with.
Yeah.
You know what we talked about for 2 months? My family dynamic relationships, in particular with my dad.
Yeah.
Talk about heavy conversations
Yeah.
that I was blindsided by.
Right.
But by the end of those conversations, I had such a new perspective that she saw from day one that I was completely blind to. So if you get a coach and they just agree with you and make you feel happy and warm and fuzzy all the time, fire that coach because they're not doing their job.
Yeah, and that is so true. Even with some of my students, with the business that I have, if they're not getting results, if they're not, because the systems that are there, if you're working the system the way you should work the system, you should get results. So if they're not getting results, there's a reason behind it. They're sabotaging themselves somewhere. And I've had conversations. All right, what's going on? What are you afraid of? Where does this lead? When have you had success? And I've had to actually dive into those kinds of questions and find out, oh yeah, this is a very set in stone pattern. And you're either going to break it or I'm going to fire you. Because I'm not a part of just feeding your pattern. Yeah. I'm a part of change. So you either get on board and change this, or we can part company very, very happily.
Correct. And it's why you see people come in and out of destructive patterns and behaviors, even with parenting, coming back to the parenting topic. Like, there's so many things that like we could talk about and we could be like, oh, we're going to be the best parents. We're going to do it this way. And then it's like 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You're like, fine, have the chicken, have the fish sticks. You just eat the fish sticks. I don't even care anymore. But like we fall back into those patterns and habits. And the only way you will ever break free from them is if you acknowledge them. Even at that point, you're not going to be perfect. But to me, that is the fundamental prerequisite for change is being truthful with where you're at. And the coach, to me, is a mirror that helps reflect that to you in a much brighter, stronger way. Not to say people can't discover that on their own, but a coach is I always say a coach is like the time warp. Like you could get done with a coach in 30 days, what it will take you 6 months to do.
Yes.
Book, I hired a book coach. I worked on this for 18 months and I hired a book coach. We got done in 3 months what it took me 18 months to do. So I really like.
Yes. And it's really a difference in mindset, isn't it? I mean, there's a reason you didn't hire that coach during the agency years.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you did it yourself. You just, nope, I can do this. I can power through this. I can do this. And that is a scarcity mindset. It is to me the definition of a scarcity mindset, because we think we have the power, but we really don't. It's very scarce. But once you hire someone and let go of that idea that I know it all, because you have to let go of that in order to hire someone and take their advice, right? They have to bring you value. So yes, and it's so true. Power parents and Russ, we call ourselves power parents because if you've taken a kid through potty training, you can do anything. Totally. Yes. Right? So you got a kid through potty training. Think about all that takes. You got to try and convince them that they've got to do this or find out what it is that really motivates them and help encourage them to do it and blah, blah. I mean, if you just left the kid to their own devices, they would potty train themselves because I don't know of any 15-year-old still in diapers that is not, physically it needs to be, right? Yeah. They're going to get out of it and they're going to figure it out no matter what. But we parents, we want to get them there when they show us signs that that's what they need to do. So if you can do that, business is nothing. So power parents, if there's something that you need to change, do not expect perfection. You will not get perfection. You're going to fall, but you will have the understanding that you accept that you're going to fall. You accept you're not doing it the way you want to do it ultimately, so you can learn from that. But you can't learn from it if you don't accept those things first.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Coaching, yes, 100%. I just did a podcast. It was a solo podcast that'll go live here pretty soon about that very thing, that you have to get rid of that scarcity mindset and embrace the abundance mindset. And the only way you can do that is to hire other people to help you break through.
You're gonna love my book because I talk all about that. I'll make sure I get you a copy because that is like a whole chapter on that. So that's so rad.
It's so true, right? But it's because we've gone through those kinds of experiences and come out the other side. Right? I mean, that's all we're doing when we write, especially you writing that book. That is going to be so valuable to people because you're basically saying, I've been there. I've been down in that hole. I see where you are, but I'm going to jump down in there with you and show you the way out that I found.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing. So
All right.
congratulations to you.
Well,
That's
thank you.
fantastic.
And
All
actually,
right.
this is the first, like I just finished the manuscript like this
Wow.
morning, like
Oh my gosh.
setting to get laid out and designed. So this is the first
Wow.
conversation at this level that I've had about the book. So I really
That's
appreciate you, and I hope that it's provided some value to you guys.
oh yeah, yes, because this is what we talk about. So yes, we've talked about parenting, we've talked about entrepreneurship, and really the two together. You're right. We are insane. We are absolutely. We grab on to something that I know of many entrepreneurs. One in particular, very very powerful, very very high level, very popular entrepreneur who he has a significant other, but no kids, no other ties to anything, and is insane with the amount of content he produces. But with us in parents, we have to make choices. We can't just work 12, 15 hours a day if we want a relationship with our kids.
Oh yeah.
We can't do it. So we have to make choices. It's not about balance, right? Balance doesn't exist. Choices exist. And
I
that's
love it.
hard, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, and I get so frustrated because I'm in a couple groups and there's one of the seminal books for me was the 4 Hour Work Week. And when I read that, and I had already had a kid at the time. So like for me, I was like, well, it must be nice, Mr. Ferris, to just to go off to Thailand
And
or
hack your
Buenos
body.
Aires and
Yeah.
hack whatever all the time. But on the flip side, in his most recent book, I'm a huge fan of him and his writing. He talks a lot about loneliness and depression and relationship challenges that he's had. So I think there's two sides to every coin.
Yep.
While those guys might be able to produce and create insane amounts of content, they're struggling with a lot of things that, not to say we don't struggle with those things too, but I know family and connection is a huge antidote for depression and loneliness and all of that. So I think everyone has their own ups and
Demons.
downs. Yeah, exactly.
Their own demons. Yes, we are. It is the human condition. It is not exclusive to parents, non-parents, males, females, people of color, not whatever. It's human. We're human, and we each have our own demons that we have to deal with. But the thing that gets me through it every single time, I've only struggled with depression once in my life, and that was when I was 8 months pregnant. I fell and broke both my legs.
Ooh, wow.
And so I had a cast up to the knee on each leg. Couldn't move. I had to use a walker. I could put some weight on one foot, but not the other. But I had an 8-month pregnant baby hotel, right? I had I couldn't take a shower, bath. I couldn't cook. I couldn't play with, it was just I was focusing on all the things I couldn't do. And because I am a hard charging type A, or at least, I was at the time, go get them, in control kind of person. And what got me through that, and what also got me through labor and delivery, the first time and the second time, was the fact that millions of people before me have dealt with these exact same issues and survived. So I can survive too.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I mean, you're quite an inspiration. So thank you for sharing this, and thank you for allowing other people to share their stories too.
Well, yeah, because that's what you're doing. You're saying too, guess what? I found someone that was a coach for me and helped me break through this. So I can also act that for you, because we all have our issues. We're all human. We all have the human condition, and you're helping people through their specific issue that speaks because you've been there. That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm so glad. Even though it took 18 months for you to get there and only 3 months, it doesn't matter. As long as it gets done.
It's not even done yet. I still have like this
Still.
is like the last 20% that
I
takes so much
know.
time.
Yeah, it does. And then the editing, and then you got to go back and rewrite some stuff, and then you got to edit again. And oh my goodness, I know that's fun. Wow. So, Russ, I got to tell you, I know it's been all over the place, our conversation, but we've come through a pretty amazing journey. And I can't wait to have a reason that I need Design Pickle. I've got a new business that just started in February, so I know I actually need a very well designed PDF that I've written. So I'm
Wow.
going to probably be talking to you guys pretty soon for that one.
Yeah, check it
Just
out.
hit me. Yeah, that's a great thing that I would need to have you do for me. And so you at least have a published date. You said next August, right? So we're right now in August of 2017. Are you talking 2018 August?
2017 August.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
yeah, next month. Next month.
Yay. Oh, so that's not too far. You're going to get this done quick. That's fantastic. And then we'll be able to do russperry.co, you said?
Yeah, so I believe if you go to, I'm going to set up just a landing page for you guys, but if you want to go to russperry.co/parent,
Perfect.
will be a bit of information about the book, what we're doing, and you can just check it out and poke around, see pictures of my family and all of that.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for spending this time. I can't wait. So we're going to have to hook back around, say next spring, and because I have a feeling, just these feelings I get, that this book is going to kind of spring the next path that you might be taking beyond Design Pickle, and I'm being a little mysterious about
First
it.
person
but
who said that, like in this Notre Dame style. Yeah, like it's
telling
making me
ya.
nervous the more people that say those things.
They do, because we don't understand. You've never been an author before, right? So this author
Correct.
thing is going to open up doors that you didn't even know existed. And people are going to come to you with problems that only you can solve, that you didn't even know existed, that you didn't even know you had the ability to solve. And it's really amazing when I'm hooked into this, Russ, because this latest business that I have is all around Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And the only reason I have this business is because I heard a message. I got the message and I replied with a yes, with a hell yes. And that's what I hear you. That's what I see you doing. You have this next message that I need to write this book, and you replied with a hell yes. And now it's going to open other doors to other messages, and you're going to have to decide if you're going to reply to those.
Oh, wow.
So I can't wait to see what's coming next. I know by next spring there will be, because it happens quickly usually, there will be other things that you're going to be working on, and you're going to have to make some choices. But I want to circle back by next spring and see where you are, and I would love to have you back on the show.
Oh, let's count on it then. I'll make a note.
You better.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for this time, Russ. I so appreciate it.
Hey, you've been married. Thank you very much.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.